Boy, I can agree with that, can't you? That's what the world needs now. So who's going to bring that love to the world? Yes, absolutely. I got a couple of people willing to do it. I guess that's all I need, right? I'm willing to do it. I want to join it. You guys want to join in over here with that? Okay, good. I'm with you. I'm with you. Then you're in the right place. Because this is a place where that's what we're doing. And no matter how we've defined our path up until now, it has led us to this point. You know, many people try to explain their spiritual path and unity in negative terms. Well, we're not traditional religion. We're not what you're used to hearing in the church or what the definitions you're used to hearing of the Bible and those kind of things. And it kind of doesn't really fit exactly what we're doing because you're attempting to describe a positive experience in negative terms. So many people will say, I'm spiritual, but not religious. Well, what does that really mean? It doesn't really tell the whole story of your spiritual journey. There's a great movement in modern spirituality to be inclusive, to be diverse, and to accept all faiths. That's really what we're doing here, is accepting the truth at the core of all faiths. We're not necessarily aligning with the doctrine, the dogma, and the limited perception of God that you're presenting, but we're aligning with the truth that's at the core of every faith. And that's really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the core truth for all human beings. What do we share? What do we have in common? That's for me, a much more exciting journey and an exciting discovery to find out what we have in common rather than trying to point out our differences. I think that's the whole problem of humanity. You're too quick to think you're different from the other person and to point out your differences. What if all your perspectives are limited, yours and mine? It's not about our perspective, it's about our experience. And that's what hopefully we're holding open here is a space for each of us to have a spiritual experience. There are aspects of religious life that translate perfectly, that translate easily and effortlessly to a more mystical experience. So I don't want to throw out those aspects. So the question that came up this week was, can you be both a church and a spiritual center? And if so, what does it look like? So I have a short answer to both of those questions. Yes, you can. It looks like this. This is what it looks like. It looks like Unity on Cape Cod. This is a church and it's a spiritual center. The definition of church in the Webster's dictionary, Merriam-Webster's dictionary, is pretty pathetic. Says it's a building, especially a public building, especially for Christian worship, or it's the authority of Christendom. You know how they say the church? You know, usually meaning the Catholic Church. You can be both Catholic and come to Unity, right, guys? Lily went over. She was taking her mom to the Spanish Catholic service, and she met these guys over there. Over at St. Francis Xavier. Isn't that great? Yeah. And you might find some people in this room wherever you go. You might find them in the supermarket. You'll find them at the yoga class. You might find them in your meditation circle. You might find them when you go to the chiropractor or the massage therapist. You might find them in their experience of the greatest expression of their loving self. The greatest expression of your loving self, your unique expression of God, is what the world needs now. It needs your love. It doesn't need your pointing out our differences. It needs us to transcend our differences. Loving our neighbor as ourselves. Loving God, or the totality of creation above all things. And then loving your neighbor just like that. Like you're the totality of all things, sitting right there. Wow, now you really have something that I want to discover. I want to look past our differences and discover our commonality. You can look at the countless facets of truth from every different angle and perspective here. Here at Unity, we're in a constant discovery of the deeper meaning of life and our personal enlightenment. You know, the thing that I love about Unity is that, for instance, today, I'm going to use quotes from Rumi, Deepak Chopra, Ernest Holmes, Bruce Lipton, Swami Vivekananda, the Buddha, and some guy named Reverend Anonymous. And you'll find all that on one Sunday morning right here. Wow. It's a pretty cool place, pretty inclusive and diverse. But it's going to speak to the core truth that can be found in any faith. And that's where we come together. Because spirituality is meant to take us beyond our tribal identity and into a domain of awareness that's more universal. I looked in temples, churches, and mosques, but where did I find the divine? In my heart. I was looking in all these places, but it was within me. So what makes a place holy or a place where you can find God? It's the people who are there. It's the people who are bringing God to that place. It's not inherent in something outside of you. It's not inherent in a building, in a church, a temple, or a mosque. You must bring it. You must find it in your heart. And then you bring it to this place. So instead of worshiping God, we are finding and celebrating God within us. We're following a spiritual principle rather than a personality. We're finding and celebrating God within us. It's different than worshiping. It's celebrating. But worship can be part of it. It's not, I'm not taking away your idea of acknowledgement of a greater power, because that's a very important thing. I brought something I wanted to share from Eric Butterworth. I've been reading this book once again for about the 10th time, Discover the Power Within You. Anybody here read this book? We're going to have to do a class on this book. It's so full of so many gems. Just one page could take your whole week discussing it. I love it. But what I want to discuss is that we are inclusive. And we are also expanding in our awareness. So we don't want to just get stuck in what we understand today. We want to increase our understanding, increase our awareness, expand what we experience. We want to see and experience the divine in everything. Before I start reading this, I want to tell you this week I was blessed to give an interview for Unity Magazine. Yeah, so I'll be probably, I'm going to say, hopefully, in the next issue. Comes out the July-August edition. And what we talked about was, how do we see the divine in everyday life? How can we do that? It's very important in order to experience the divine in me to see it in you. If I begin to feel it and see it all around me, then I'm going to identify myself with that divine nature. And so we want to be inclusive. We don't want to use the same thinking that got us into the problem, trying to solve it in that way? Because it's not going to work. It's the thinking that got us into that place of conflict and separation. So rather than judge the fundamental churches or the traditional churches and say how much better we are, how much better our path is, we need to start to include. So Eric Butterworth has a nice way of looking at this. He says, many people find comfort and strength and inspiration in the emotional acceptance of Jesus as their personal Savior. And this is good. There is much to be gained from a deep inner feeling of fellowship with the Master. I like to look at him like that too. A master teacher, our brother, our way shower, but a master teacher. For we do not want to infer here that the fundamentalist or the evangelical Christian is wrong. He is laying hold of Jesus at a very vital and helpful point. But our thesis here is that this is not the high level of consciousness that Jesus had in mind when he said, "Follow me." We must begin to see Jesus as the great discoverer of the innate divinity of man, the supreme revealer of the truth about everyone, the pioneer, the way shower in the quest for self-realization and self-unfoldment. We must see him turning to his fellow beings, including you and me, and say, "Come, sit with me a while and let me help you to see as I see. Let me help you to feel the depth of the Spirit in you as I have felt it within me. Let me show you the way, the high road to your own Mount Olympus, higher consciousness. Let me lead you into the wonderful world of the Christ within you, where you will know and know that you are a limitless expression of the infinite." That's what I believe is the purpose of a spiritual center, of a center called Unity, is that we say, "Come and sit with me a while and experience the Christ within you. Feel what I feel, see what I see as this incredible oneness of creation that we are, this incredible thing that we share, that all of us share. It's in every single one of us." So what is meant by that is that the spiritual path is really about expanding our awareness, eventually bringing us to that universal experience that Jesus was in. It's really just about sitting together with one another until you discover for yourself the Christ within you. And we discover it at higher and higher levels. It keeps coming around, the lesson. It's not linear. It's a vortex. It keeps coming around, and we discover more, and we discover more, and we discover more. And we are able, as we discover more, to express more love in the world. We tend to make the mistake of going back and comparing ourselves to others because we think we're so much better in our understanding. But it's not like that. The more you know and the more you know, the more you must become a servant. The Bible said that being in the form of God, remembering God within, Jesus, Yeshua, found it not robbery to be equal with God. To be equal with your Creator. And yet, at that point, he didn't take on a reputation or ascribe to the ego the powers of God. Instead, what did he do? He became a servant. He became a teacher. He started to teach us and to heal and to bless and to demonstrate the spiritual powers and energies that are latent in each and every one of us. that are your potential, your divine potential. So one of the things that we can say is spirituality is meant to take us beyond this identity, this tribal identity of you and me, of us and them. Oh, you're a Catholic, well then you can't belong here. Well, no, come on, become a member at Unity. Because we're a spiritual movement. We're not defined by doctrine, but by principle. And if you would love to learn and live by these principles, come on in. I could care less what your past has been, but I can say right here and right now we're in a discovery of the Christ within. So another thing that I think is very important is to remember that ultimately, if we all come from the same source, we can't be separate in truth, but only in our perspective. So it's only a mistaken perspective that creates these separations. It's a mistaken perspective, not only of who my neighbor is, but fundamentally who I am, and what God is, and what the world or the universe is. So if I'm perceiving all of this separation as my reality, guess what? I'm going to try to project it onto you. So the answer to that is really a spiritual path that welcomes everyone into a new experience. Extending God ends the projections of the ego. Extending love, the greatest expression of your loving self. I'm going to stick on that until we actually feel it's true. Somebody said that's what they're doing. So I said, okay, if that's what you're doing, I'm going to do that with you. And we're going to do that right until I feel it's absolutely 100% true 100% of the time. You can never love too much. You can never give too much. You can never pray too often. You know, you think that you need this thing that you call fear, or you call anger, or you call separation, or you call judgment of others. You don't need any of it. Do you know you can live without it? You can. You can live without all that stuff. Just get rid of it. Throw it away. Drop it. And the minute you drop it, you say, I don't even remember why I thought I needed that. I thought that judging my neighbor was going to protect me, and it hurt me. I thought holding on was going to give me prosperity, and it didn't. It brought me poverty of spirit. Now I'm alone with all my stuff. I really thought that defending my ideas as the truth was going to make me right and happy. And I learned that you can't be both right and happy. I want to be happy. So instead of defending my ideas, I want to discover an experience that we can have together so that we can be a center, a radiating center of God's light and love. That's what this is, a radiating center of God's light and love. You cannot define it, you can only experience it. Isn't that nice? Your mind is going, but wait, what about this? What about that? And you can just say, peace, Selah. Be still, Selah. Be still in your soul. Be still within. Stop, Selah. Stop. It's an old word that I got from the Old Testament, but it works. It means just stop for a minute. Stop trying to figure it out. Stop trying to promote your ideas. Receive. Stop and receive the love of God now. Receive the love that you are. Receive the love of your neighbor. And then naturally it will flow from you. So we're giving and receiving naturally. We are in a spiritual experience in that moment. There's no need to define it. Keep going. Just go with it. You know, if you're surfing the waves, if you're out there surfing and you start analyzing, well, I don't know, are my feet in the right position? Is this wave going to take me here and there? And pretty soon, that you're under the water and your board's hitting you in the head because you're analyzing it. You're not going with the flow. I want to surf through life in a way that I can include all of it in a single experience. You're going to go back and try to define whether it was good or bad. Selah. God is good and only good. Chill out. Relax. I'm good. Don't really need any more ideas. I'm, respectful of your view of the world, but I would rather be in an experience of the universe. The world's really a tiny aspect of the whole. I want to experience all of it. Do you ever, when you were growing up, many of you are still that way. I'm glad you never grew up. I want to experience all of life, all of the universe, everything there is to experience. I want to be in joy and happiness and love all the time. And those of you that perhaps think it's not possible, well, there are many people here who are experiencing it right now. Hang out with them and you realize it's not only possible, but it's a certainty. And that's what a spiritual center really is meant to do, is to bring you through those times of uncertainty and doubt and frustration and all the things you may feel as part of your human experience. And allow those to convert into positive energy. Allow it all to convert. It's all part of it. Try not to hold on to your definition of it. It's very important for us to look to spirituality as something necessary in our life, as necessary as food and shelter and clothing is to the body. So Ernest Holmes, we can't do without spirituality no more than we can do without food, shelter, and clothing for our body. It's just not possible. We need a connection to the essence of our life, to what we are. We cannot disconnect from what we truly are. We can't do that. It's impossible. How can you step outside of yourself? How can you get away from yourself? Wherever you go, there you are. And nobody's going to do it like you. You do it better. You do you better than anyone else can. So just keep being yourself and doing you to the best of your ability, the greatest expression of your loving self. So we really do live under the same spiritual laws, right? We live under the same spiritual principles. We just hear it and understand it in different ways. And that's what the beauty of also of a spiritual center is, that we can accept that you're learning differently, but we're all experiencing the same truth, the same principles. And we're all learning to develop ways to incorporate spiritual law into our life, manifesting from that substance of love with divine law, manifesting our world according to divine law. So divine law would also include something like physics. Oh, that's not physics. Let's go here. No. Darn it, I must have put these in the wrong order. Okay, that's part of the growth process. You let the universe reorder it all for you. So, it's not in there. Okay, no problem. I'm going to read it to you. The new physics provides a modern version of the ancient spirituality. In a universe made out of energy, everything is entangled. Everything is one. So this is true, and has been proven to be true, oneness by physics. This is Bruce Lipton, by the way. I have a couple of Bruce Lipton fans here. So the new physics is only providing validation for the ancient spiritual principles that we've always practiced. It's just telling you, yes, it's true. We are all one. I can show you how we are all one scientifically. So now you can't deny it. So this is the big shift now in humankind. We're learning all these truths, and there are many human beings who are denying them. Well, that didn't really happen. Oh, that's not really true. And it's like, what are you talking about? You're seeing it right in front of you. You can look at it scientifically and say, we're all one. Well, I don't want to treat everybody as one. That just ruins my worldview. That takes away my power in the world. If everybody has the same equal value and equal rights, that just takes away all of my worldview and really all of why I'm here. Maybe you're not here for that purpose. Maybe you're here for the purpose of creating the greatest expression of your loving self. You guys are going to remember that after today. Maybe that's why I'm here. So, if we go back to the ancient spiritual truths, we can go to someone perhaps like Swami Vivekananda. I love this guy because he dealt a lot with the spiritual energies of the seventh chakra, which is your God self. And he wrote countless material on this subject. And he said, you have to grow from the inside out. No one can teach you. No one can make you spiritual. There's no other teacher but your own soul. We're going to look outside, but whoever it is, they can't help us unless we begin to relate to them and what they're telling us. If we begin to relate to it and experience it, who's teaching us really? Our own soul. The only other option is we can deny what they're offering us and go on as we always have. But how is that working for you so far? Take a look at the world around you and ask yourself, don't ask me, ask yourself, is that the world that is being manifest through the pure substance of love and according to divine law? Take a look at the world that you see around you and ask yourself, is this the greatest expression of my loving self? And if not, I got work to do. That's all. I just have work to do. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just my process. It's where I am in the evolution of my soul. I remember telling our friend, we have a friend from the Sikh tradition that comes here sometimes and speaks to us, Sri Karam Singh Khalsa. You remember him? And so at my mother's wake, he shows up. And he never met her, but he says, I feel like I met her because I know you. And we were talking about life and death and evolution of consciousness. And I told him, I got to reveal a secret to you. I said, this is my last time around. This is my last time here. And he looks at me right in the eye and he says, you've got work to do, brother. Now that's some honesty right there. And I said, okay then, I'm going to do it. Like, all right, I have work to do. Like, he's honestly looking at my soul and saying, well, if you want this to be your last incarnation, you better start getting to it, bro. You better get on it. And I'm going to tell each and every one of you sitting here, if you have some spiritual idea about the evolution of your soul, just, it's not something to be afraid of. Look at it and say, what am I to do? What is mine to do? Charles Fillmore used to say. And then wake up in the morning with that zeal and enthusiasm to go and do it. And you don't need to worry about anything else, if you're doing your work here on earth, if you're really fulfilling your purpose, you're happy. You have absolutely no cares in the world because your mind is focused on fulfilling your soul's journey. Isn't that wonderful? And we can do it. We can do it. But I'll tell you one thing. The last thing I'll tell you is just as a candle cannot burn without a fire, human beings cannot live without a spiritual life. Another reason why we sang Church on Fire. If you're a candle and nobody's lit the fire to the candle, it's not doing anything. It's not providing light for anyone. So as beautiful and as precious and as holy as you are, unless you've got that fire burning, you're not doing anything. You're not bringing any light to the world. You got to light the fire of that candle. Turn on the Christ within you. Represent the Christ in this form, right here, right now. Starting today, I am going to make a decision and a declaration to be the greatest expression of my loving self. Right, John? Amen. Amen. Right. So you want to join me in that? Yeah. Excellent. Then welcome to our spiritual center. Amen.
You have been watching the message from our Sunday celebration service here at Unity on Cape Cod, providing a positive path for spiritual living. Please join us every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at 147 Walton Ave, Hyannis, Mass., and visit us online at unityoncapecod.org. This video was made possible in part through a grant from Unity Worldwide Ministries and the Templeton Foundation.